Want to beat your mates at fantasy football? I've got a little secret for you.
Fantasy Football Hub offers AI team ratings to enhance your team, AI recommended transfers to ensure you make the right decisions, and a new AI assistant chatbot, all designed to help you win your FPL mini league. Upload a screenshot of your FPL team for an instant free AI team rating. And if you sign up and don't win your mini league, we'll even refund your membership. Terms apply. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to Game Week 3. My name is Fergi, and I'm here as usual with Rich Clarke. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in Game Week 2?
Hi, Fergie. Hi, everyone. Red, I'm afraid, but only small. Interesting week, wasn't it? To say the least.
It was.
You would have thought, wouldn't you, with your captain getting a hat trick, all of your defenders returning, and a couple of assists from your midfield. That would be a green arrow, wouldn't you? Most weeks, you'd be thinking that's
73 points and a green and a red
73
arrow.
points, and it's a red. Yeah, tough world, huh? But such is the quality of information out there, the quality of podcasting, that most of our opponents are well informed, mate. And 73 was quite a few, 3 or 4 points off a safety score, I think. So work to do. But on the whole, a bit like you, I'm fairly pleased with the team. I haven't made a transfer yet, and we're 3 weeks in or something. And most of the players have got a good fixture this week, so I'm not panicking. But there's been some fantastic scores out there. So anyone who triple captained, and there were nearly 500,000 people who did.
Well played. Superb.
Well played. Congratulations. I was urging caution on that. I didn't think, I didn't feel the urge myself, and thought, let's wait for a double or something. There'll be other opportunities. But it was a good play, and 3 goals is a great return there. So well done, triple captainers, and there's work to do to catch up.
What do you think about the triple captain score? Obviously, 17 is a fantastic score, and you would probably take that now. In hindsight, if they said, "Would you take 70 points?" you'd probably say absolutely yes. Do you still think that it's kind of attainable later on? I think I'd be disappointed if I had any more than sort of 12 points. You think like a couple of returns over 2 games with a couple of bonus points would probably be roughly 14 or 15 anyway. So I'm not too disappointed I missed it.
No, I think it can be matched in a double game.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the temptation for people who've still got it, and obviously, let's face it, 9.5 million people have still got it, right? So the temptation will be to save it for a double now to give the chance of matching those Haaland points. But we've got to remember, we're early in the season. People will have forgotten Game Week 2 by the time we get into the second half of the season, and it's Game Week 30, and we're bringing out the triple captain. I think what we've got to hope for is that there's some unscheduled double. We get some bad weather in February, and we get some postponements, or we lose a monarch or something like that. We basically
you want to lose a monarch, Rich?
Yeah. No, I don't want to, but these things do happen, right? And a freak of nature or a force majeure, and we get an extra double game week. So I think we can get those points back. We've still got the chip to use, right? So
or a monarch could slip on a snowy surface, and then we'd have a quadruple game week because it would obviously
exactly.
So yeah, and
something like that, yeah.
And Kunku was your villain this week, wasn't he? I think as expected midweek, we weren't quite sure. You took the risk, you played him, didn't work out. 6-2 and 1 point for Nkunku is pretty tough. Pretty tough going, mate.
Absolute nightmare transfer, and I still, out of all the players I picked for the season, that's the one I'm most disappointed on, because my natural feeling was, don't go for Chelsea. They'll be all over the place. They're buying too many players. You don't know what their formation is. And then I just ended up on the last day putting him in because of that 6.5 price point being easier to squeeze in. And he's a sell, isn't he? However, it's when you sell
Indeed.
that's the key thing we're going to talk about tonight.
Really excited.
If you've sold,
Go on.
go on.
No,
if you've sold already, then fair enough.
Yeah.
You probably bought a good player, but I've still got him.
Yeah, really excited to talk this week. We're doing like just over the last hour or two, just having a look at the fixtures and and having like like sort of trying to make a plan and things, and we're quite unprecedented, aren't we? Well, definitely be unprecedented after this game week deadline, because there could be the opportunity to have 3 transfers and a wild card, even wild card, and keep 3 transfers, and every kind of thing in between as well. It's a really fun time, and I must say I was wrong, because at the start of the season when they announced these changes, I thought it would just be really boring. I thought no, but most people, if you took like a subset of 10 players around game week 4, game week 5, I would say that there would probably be about 6 or 7 different. They're sitting in different states in their team of having like no 3 transfers, 1, 2, 3. Have got a wild card, haven't got the wild card, and vice versa. I think it's really made the game, or will really make the game really diverse. So well played, FPL.
Yeah, it's great.
Played, FPL.
It's great, and I think what we're hearing a lot of this week is because people are starting to have cracks in their teams. They're starting to get unlucky with injuries and and rotation. They're coming to realize. People are coming to realize that it's not easy to move around now. Even if you've got a couple of transfers, the pricing is so good,
absolutely,
that you cannot have. There's this feeling that you cannot have the player you want, you're short. Because even if you've gone on, I think Nkunku's price fell on midnight on Sunday. I was enjoying the bank holiday weekend. I was not watching. The Fantasy Football Hub price.
Well,
changes.
you were the only one who weren't, mate. May I tell you?
I was on. I went to sleep, Fergie, and basically, woke up and I'd lost the money already, and so basically, life does have to go on for some people, and yeah, it's not easy now for me to move to the player I want, and so therefore making a transfer now to avoid an even further price drop to a player I don't want feels like a mistake. So now it's like, maybe let's bank that transfer and have some fun in the break. So there's loads of different ways we can go.
Indeed.
And it's generally positive because it's challenging.
I scored a few more than you, but I scored exactly 9 points more than you. And the reason was my one different player was Anthony Gordon, who came in really nicely, obviously, with a 10-pointer.
An away goal. An away
goal indeed. And now he's home to Spurs this week as well. So exciting times. But yeah, 82 for me, very similar to you, obviously. I've already got Rodgers in place as well, which is nice. So obviously we're going to spend the majority of this pod talking about, the kind of state of play and the different strategies that are now available, the players that we're going to be looking at. But it almost kind of feels like it's when to do these things, when to bring in X player or when to take X player out, because we've got so many tools at our disposal now with the wild cards and these extra transfers as well, that you can almost, I talk a lot normally around kind of, it's manipulating your transfers through, but we've only got a finite amount, haven't we, normally to do anything with, and it becomes quite stale. Whereas now it's, we're in uncharted territory, unprecedented times, uncharted waters, and any other analogy or anything you want to say.
Any other fantastic. Corridors of uncertainty.
It's fantastic. It really, really is, and it feels really good fun. Just before we move on, just like to say thank you so much to all of you who have been watching this channel over the years. We hit a massive milestone this morning. 100,000 subs on this channel, a century of subs. So we'd like to thank you all so much for joining us, and watching all the videos, watching Rich, myself, Adam, and everyone over the years prattle on about FPL, and Jack, now our most recent host, has been hosting for the last year or two, has been absolutely fantastic. So again, thank you so much, everyone. It was a lovely feeling, and hopefully we get that elusive YouTube
plaque. You get a plaque, don't you?
Exactly that. So yeah, that That'll be great. Before we look at some players, do you want your FPL team rated for free and weekly transfer recommendations driven by artificial intelligence? And if you do, you click the top link in the description below. Go to Fantasy Football Hub to get your team rated instantly by uploading a screenshot of your team. It takes seconds, and we'll be showing our current drafts and ratings later in the show. Not our drafts, our current teams and ratings, and our transfer recommendations for our teams later in the show. If you do join the full package as a paid member, we're so confident in our tools and AI that we will give you your money back if you don't win your mini league. And with 50% off, there's never been a better time to join us at the Hub. Lots of Palmer talk already in the chat. I'm sure he's someone we are going to talk about a bit. But Rich, firstly, what were your sort of takeaways generally from the weekends? What have you been left chewing on, on Monday morning?
Well, I mean, there were loads of players who returned, right? So it wasn't just the premiums and the guys that grab all the headlines. So there was a lot of sort of Salah versus Haaland captaincy talk, depending on how people were set up. But there were a lot of mid-price players who returned. So again, your 9 points really just came from you've got Gordon, I've got Nkunku.
Yeah,
if you've gone Smith Rowe got a 10-pointer. Yep. Eze hasn't scored anything yet. Bruno Fernandes hasn't scored anything yet. But these guys aren't necessarily bad picks. Their stats are fine. They just haven't given that return. What I did notice is that if a player does a goal, he tends to get about 10 points. You're getting not just the 7 or 8 for the goal, particularly if he's a midfielder. You'll kind of almost get nailed on for 2 or 3 bonus points as well, in terms of the bonus point system kicking in. And despite our fear of defenders and goalkeepers in particular not getting bonus points, if you've gone Raya to begin the season, he's returned 18 points already with bonus points in both games. So goalkeepers are owning bonus, and he was absolutely magnificent against Villa. So
that save of the Watkins header was out of this world.
Exactly, amazing stuff. Yeah, so the goalkeeper's that's a problem position again. A lot of people in the community have gone for Henderson or a 4.5 option, and it's not really working out, that is it so far. But do we again waste a precious transfer on a keeper, or do we wait till wildcard and fix it? So there's two very high scoring game weeks. It feels like this week we might be due a low scoring one, because normally you get a low scoring one about 1 in 3, 1 in 4. So it doesn't feel like such a massive opportunity game week this week. No. Don't know why, but we'll see.
If you've got both Bruno and Eze, you've been incredibly unfortunate, haven't you? He's been both of them have performed really well. They've got really high XG and XGI and all the other attacking stats, and you've been really unfortunate. They're both, I think they're both holes right. I know United have got Liverpool this week. They have got Southampton then in game week 4, and Eze's fixture is really decent going on. Eze, as we can see now, has had the joint most shots in the league, along with Semenyo at Bournemouth. Muniz owners, I think, have been quite hard done by as well. Another 9 shots. His overall play has been quite good. One which jumped out at me in terms of shots was Soucek at 5 million. He looks decent. It was funny. We kind of had a Hub AI meeting last week. We generally just kind of look at the AI, look at the teams, look at the predictions, and chat about them. And Soucek was coming out quite high, and I was like, Thomas Soucek, are we mad? What's it saying? And actually, he came on and he scored. And now that Edison Alvarez looks like he's going to be kind of eased back in out of his injury, he's all of a sudden looks a pretty good pick. So Soucek at 5 million is good. But Palmer and Madueke were obviously the kind of stars of the show in terms of points. What are your thoughts on them moving forward, Rich?
Well, Palmer looks like last season wasn't just a freak of nature, doesn't it? He does look like he's worth the 10.5, but it's quite difficult to move to him this week unless you are wildcarding. I mean, I think if you've got Saka, you're not going to sell Saka ahead of Brighton. If you've got a Salah, you're not going to downgrade to Palmer. Yeah, so you might be able to get from Bruno to Palmer. That might be quite a tempting move if you can get a couple of mil from somewhere else. But it looks like it's a tricky one to get to him, and I still think yes, we've had a 6-goal burst from Chelsea, but still think they're a bit of an avoid, really. Despite supporting them, I just don't know who's going to play for them. Even Palmer, now they've signed. Who've they signed at this week? I can't remember who they've brought in. Someone else, haven't they? They've brought in who play in Palmer's position. I'm not even sure. It's not Madueke. It's not Felix. It's another one they've got coming in. There's just so many of them.
They've signed so many players. We're losing track.
Exactly. Yeah. I am losing track of it. So I think they're playing tonight. I'm expecting Nkunku will probably be named in the lineup tonight, which is almost like the nail in his coffin for a start on the weekend. But we don't know. If we're all in a frenzied rush to sell him, but he could yet come true. But he's going to need a lot of patience, I think.
And they may be signing Oshiman and Tony's been linked as well, haven't they? As well. So if they haven't finished, goodness knows where they're going to play all these players. It's crazy.
So just one for the people that don't transfer early. I mean, we've got so much activity to come in the next 28 hours, haven't we, before the transfer window closes. Tomorrow's going to be absolutely bonkers because so many teams have left it late and there's so many good players out there who can be caught. There's about 3 clubs in for Tony now, and he could yet not go anywhere. So we don't know what the outcome of that. And it'll be like one of those little puzzles where you move the pieces around and in order to make up the picture. And Tony moving is significant because it obviously frees up opportunities at Brentford for certain Mr. Mbermo and so on and so forth. And where will Tony go? If he goes to United, that makes United assets much, much better because they've got a really good striker to play with. So there's some key moves in the transfer market. So I'm very tempted now to wait till tomorrow night to make any moves now rather than chase another 0.1 tonight or something if I have to.
Yeah, so I see Eze on the Fantasy Football Hub price predictions tool. Eze looks like he might drop this evening, which I'm quite surprised.
That's right.
Got a goal and assist last night, and he's been so unlucky.
Yeah, there's a few waiting on that drop, aren't there? I don't think Watkins is going to drop now because he seems to have turned around and he's going up again in terms of the number of net transfers. But Eze still got some attrition against him, and there's 1 or 2 are maybe 0.1 short. And if he drops to 6.9, people can make up that that Nkunku move, and that'll be a popular transfer. But I'm just going to hold Eze. I'm not worried if he drops to 6.9.
He looks a fab. And their fixtures are good as well. I don't.
Yeah, and the Nketiah move's gone through now, hasn't it? I think. Well, that's been confirmed, hasn't it? So Nketiah is going to Palace, I think, and so that's going to help Eze's numbers, I think, in terms of assists and opportunity.
Say hello to people in the chat. FPL Pompkino says, good evening from sunny South Africa. I'm 9074. He says, evening from the depths of a 3 million rank. Looking forward to the international break. Picture the scene is in. Phil Wright is in. Jani Kalioski. Jammer from Canada. Delboy from Tokyo. We're truly global, Rich. Incredible audience we've got. FPL Sparta. Brian is in. And he says Green Arrow is competing with the UCL draw. Keep us updated on that. Ron is in from San Francisco. G. Davidson says, yes, gents, I have panic wildcard. I hope you can help me finalize it. We're going to do a bit of wildcard chat in a bit. Harry Dawson, Carl, Big Lou, Paul K says, don't panic, it's a long season. Harry has also hit the wildcard. He's in full panic mode. Peter Clinch, my old headmaster, is in. Steve Thoran, FPL Fairy, great to see you, Steve, and so many more. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thanks to Redditor. So Redditor in the chat, for those who don't know, is Jack, who runs our YouTube channel, who's done an absolutely incredible job. So great to see you, Jack. You are the players, Rich. So we kind of named this patience versus pounds, and it's kind of what we just talked about, isn't it? It's suffering the drops. I don't know whether I'm right with this. I've never really been that bothered about suffering a drop, really, as long as it's the player I want. The worst thing is when there's a player you don't want is dropping and a player you want is rising, and you're kind of waiting until the week is played out, the Champions League fix, wherever it is, and you want to make sure that they're fit and healthy, onto Thursday and Friday, and then maybe do it. And then there's leaks as well, so you're not really sure. But we're not really talking about that here, are we? There's there hasn't been any leaks really, which has forced these last minute sort of transfers. This is all to do with players like Kwanzaa. Is Kwanzaa now down to 4.3 3. Is that right? Has he gone down
I
again?
think he's dropped twice. Yeah, I think so.
That
I
is
think he did.
that's brutal.
Fortunately, that's one that I dodged, but I haven't dodged all of them.
Yeah.
And obviously, I've still got Nkunku rotting by the hour on my bench, and I think I've seen some tweets today saying he's going down tonight.
No
So
way.
we won't get we get a chance to see what he does in the European game, but that's not really much use, is it? We need to wait till tomorrow night really to make that move. Yeah, I've never been the same. I never worried about point ones, but last season after a rough start, my team dipped down below 100 million of value after a few weeks, and it was really quite difficult to get it back up again,
Yeah,
and
I
I had
remember
to
you
make a
saying.
few early moves in order to just sort of shore it up. And I think more has been made of it this year about securing team value. So people are moving early, but I've seen one or two. They're getting burned already by making maybe the wrong choice of player is getting made for one of those like point two swings, like earlier in the week. Straight move and Kunku to Madueke was quite a knee jerk one. And if you think about it, really, you're just moving for a player who's a rotation risk to a player who's a rotation risk. I know he's just scored a hat trick, and I'm sure he'll play at the weekend, but there's no way you can say he's nailed on
No,
to
of
start
course.
like 38 games for Chelsea. So that's personally not one that I'm looking at, even though I think he's made it onto our slide there at the back. It's just an example of a 0-2 swing on a Sunday night, and people think, "Oh, well, I'll do that," and I've saved my money. But actually, there's so much information, even coming by the hour now, as the transfer market moves. I'm still in favour of making later transfers if I can.
Just
Just the way I play it.
just having a look now, it looks like Palmer might rise tonight to 10.6. Raya might go up 5.6. João Pedro up to 5.6. Saka up to 10.1. And it looks like there's a few players: Odegaard, Rice, and Kunku potentially, though he is still under the 100% at the moment. Gakpo, Eze is under the 100 as well, who all could potentially drop. But yeah, it's really interesting. And in terms of the other players like Watkins and Buemo and Rodgers and stuff. So it's obviously team dependent, right? So I'm going to want a few of these players. I have Rodgers already, which I'm kind of happy with. I might have to bench him actually, but I obviously want Palmer, Watkins, and then Buemo. I'm going to want all of them over the coming weeks. But it's the patience versus the pounds, right? Of what your team is. So at the moment, for me, my starting 11 is actually decent. I'm really, really happy with it. But I also know that there's these players: Watkins away to Leicester, Palmer home to Palace, and Buemo home to Southampton. I think they are this weekend. We could really do damage,
Right.
and wildcarders could do damage this week, couldn't they? So
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly that. There's the temptation to go for the points this week. If you get Watkins this week, you're going to get a big differential on the peloton, if you like, because most
absolutely.
people haven't got the money to move to him. They're also, a lot of popular transfer will be Isak to Watkins, particularly if he blanks this weekend against Tottenham. There'll be a fire sale on Isak. He'll go down to 8.1 during the break, probably. I don't think that's possible, but yeah, maybe 8.2 then. But literally, he'll be dumped by 3 million people during the break in favour of Watkins. If you get on him this week, it's almost like saving an inevitable transfer anyway. So I did ask Adam, our previous co-host. I said to Adam, "Are you getting Watkins in this week?" And he still thinks he's going to wait till game week 4 because he thinks that just Villa are just such a different side away from
Yeah,
home to what they are like at home. So he's just waiting for those 2 home fixtures, and then so that's the Villa verdict on Watkins. I think I've got Rodgers already, and I'm going to play him this week. I'm glad I've got him, and I haven't started him yet this season, but he almost feels like it's a saved transfer in a way because he was there as the bench 8th player, and therefore he's going to be useful this week to have some Villa coverage going in, and he looks really good. He's a
he looks
fantastic
fantastic.
enabler at 5.1. I think he's gone up to now, and I think he looks pretty nailed, for the foreseeable. So I think when Villa start playing Champions League matches, there might be a bit of minutes rotation. But yeah, Rodgers is a really good pick. And if you're looking for an offload from Nkunku, for instance, then I would recommend that one above everything else. I think at the moment, I really like Mbermo, but I'm just waiting on the Ivan Toney news.
Yep.
We don't know where he's going to go or if he's going to go at all, and he just becomes so much better asset if he's on pens and the main man. And I think his stats back that up. That when Tony's not in the team, he's a far superior performer. So really like Tony. Problem with Palmer for me is I haven't written off bringing Salah in during the international break. I don't want to sell Haaland, and if I want Salah, I can't have Palmer and
Unless you get rid of
Saka.
Haaland, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Unless I get rid
Is
of
that what you said?
Haaland.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I think I might go Salah over Palmer
Okay.
in the break. Salah's not on the slide obviously this week because he's playing away to Manchester United, but he's still got those two plum fixtures
Absolutely.
after the break, two home games where he could be devastating. He's harder to get to if you're a Haaland setup, but I think it's still doable, especially with two or three transfers in the bank. So I'm actually still mulling a save if I can manage it. That's the key decision: save or spaff.
Save or spaff, indeed.
Exactly.
Looking after the break, we're just going to have a peek at the fixtures over the other side because obviously it could help dictate what we do this week. Whether there's obviously now that you don't lose your transfer, wildcard is viable, right? It is this week. It's not for me this week, but I can understand. I've been fortunate enough to manage to avoid the Nkunku and Kwanzaa. There's plenty went for both them, for example, and there's others as well. I bet plenty of managers went for those two, and Barco, for example, have just been so unlucky. But looking after the break, there are some fixture swings, aren't there? Some huge swings. Villa is one, even though Villa are away to Leicester this week, which is an okay fixture. I think it's pretty decent. But after the break, home to Everton, home to Wolves, away to Ipswich, and home to United. That is a sensational run of fixtures for Villa. Brighton as well. Home to Ipswich, home to Forest, away to Chelsea, home to Spurs. There's plenty of goals in those games. Palace as well. We mentioned them earlier. Those are selling Eze. Palace are home to Leicester in game week 4, home to United 5, away to Everton in 6, home to Liverpool in 7. And there are other, all those have got 3 home games in the 4 games between 4 and 7, and they've all got fantastic options. Watkins, Rodgers, Martinez, Konza. For Brighton is Mitoma, João Pedro. Maybe Minte. Wherever else with Palace, Eze, Mateta potentially. There's fantastic options there. So I don't know what you do. I haven't given it a great deal of thought because the team's in a pretty good place at the moment. But there seems to be an opportunity. If we can save this week, we can wildcard into a really strong run of fixtures for some good players there, and then come out the other side heading into game week 5 with 3 free transfers, which is pretty insane, isn't it?
Yeah, because you can set up for a save in game week 4.
Exactly.
And then that'll give you 4 in the bank.
4 free transfers.
And if you can be really frugal, you can get to utopia. You can get to 5 free transfers on a wild carded team in game week 6. And if you're in the top million by then, you might never look back. It's like great opportunity, isn't it? But just got if you keep banking, you can bring that wild card in at any stage during game week 4 to 6 or game week 4 to 8 even. If you just keep banking and just maintaining the the health of the first 11, then this is why maybe wasting a transfer on upgrading Barco to Feis or Barco to Harwood, but it's just a waste. You want to have as long as you can get a side out. I mean, benches are getting a bit thin. There's doubts over people like Lewis Hall starting or Nkunku starting. So you can't expect too much, but they will have some action. So if you have a player not play, they will get some minutes at the weekend. So you're going to get a 1-2 pointer off that if one of your starters doesn't start. So or one of your players doesn't start. So it's becoming a bit risky for me to not make a transfer, but I think I can just about scrape it. I'll be interested to see what the chat reckons.
Looking at the sort of captaincy matrix over the coming weeks, game week 3, I think Haaland is probably going to be popular. There are alternatives. Saka is probably a good one. Palmer's a good one. Looking into game week 4, Villa home to Everton, which is decent. Liverpool home to Forest, which is good for Salah,
Mm.
and Haaland home to Brentford. So I'm trying to think here of we can't have everyone, right? We can't have all these players. I know there are cheap options available. Probably if you went for Rodgers and Smith Rowe, for example, you could potentially get in Haaland, Saka, and Salah maybe. But you are having to compromise elsewhere. Looking ahead then to game week 5, don't think we're going to captain Haaland probably until game week 7 at the earliest, because City are home to Arsenal and away to Newcastle in 6, and other players have good fixtures in that time. Have you thought at all yet about coming off Haaland?
Game week 5. Yeah, well, I don't. There's this very small window of opportunity that if you say jink your team from Haaland to Salah in game week 4 for those 2 Salah home games where you captain Salah and you don't own Haaland for those 2 games. I mean, I think Haaland's got a decent fixture in 4, but then he plays Arsenal in game week 5, so you probably wouldn't captain there. But then you're going to want him back straight afterwards because you've then got is it Newcastle in 6? They've got us not a great fixture, but
they're away there, but they're home to Fulham in 7.
Yeah, Fulham in 7. You want him back again, So I think and bringing in a 15.1, possibly 15.2 by then player back into your team is not going to be easy, particularly if you've spread the cash on Palmer's and other expensive assets. So I think I'm just going to keep Haaland now he's in my team, and look at who I'm going to do without out of those premium mids, because there is a lot of value out there, and I think it's almost the value players that are more important to get right and settled than hopping on and off premiums. It's a valid tactic, especially if you're going to when you're going to wildcard, like, I'm a game week 6 wildcarder, so I'm coming off Haaland to Salah and using 2 transfers there to enable that, and then I'm going to wildcard afterwards. It's okay, but there are other captains out there, and it's only 1 week, and who's to say Haaland can't score at home to Arsenal? Of course he can. It's not the end of the world if you captain him. So I think I'm going to keep Haaland. That's just going to be the way I'm going to play it. I'll look at it to see if I might do Saka to Salah in game week 4. Yeah, because I think Arsenal go Tottenham away. Yeah, you can maybe go without Saka for 2 weeks, jump on Salah, and then wildcard in all your Arsenal assets for the long run. And always, I think when I'm advised, you're setting up your wildcard for maybe 25 weeks worth of fantasy football. Don't just look at the 2 or 3 weeks in front of you. Look at the fact you want maybe Raya in goal. You maybe want another Arsenal defender. You just got to set up a solid spine of a team. And so there is opportunity to maybe just come off those Arsenal assets. I mean, I wish I'd started with more Arsenal assets, and anyone that's done that has done very, very well. But they probably will concede in the next 2 or 3. If they get 5 clean sheets out of 5, that would be amazing. But I seriously think they're going to concede, possibly against Brighton as well. I mean, Brighton are scoring a lot of goals, so hopefully Brighton will get one to ease the pain on non-owners.
It's a really interesting period, and this break is going to be interesting because obviously there's with the internationals there's going to be rumours of injuries and goodness knows what. When we come back, the Champions League kicks off and Europa and everything else. So we're in for a really interesting time. Just rewinding back a touch, just to those who are due to players for this week who we're interested in bringing in this week, and also those who are wildcarding this week. There seems to be plenty of chat on social media. There seems to be lots of wildcards being activated, and like I say, it's really tough. We've all been there. If your team's in a bit of a mess, you're not where you want to be rank wise, and you can only see people saving transfers or whatever else. It's really hard. You just want to try and do something to perk yourself up and save your season almost. Then I absolutely get it. But in terms of wildcards this week, Rich, we got the Habai wildcard team up now for what it fancies this week. Again, it's heavy is heavy at the back. Let's just read it out quickly. Martinez in goal, Gabriel, Gvardiol and Robertson. So it really does still fancy that big at the back. Midfielder of Palmer, who will be captain this week. Salah and Saka, who say that the real premium midfield. Eze and Bailey is the Villa choice in this team. He has pretty good predicted points. I think his stats have been quite similar to Rodgers over the opening games as well, but it definitely fancies Bailey. And then Isaac and João Pedro up front. And if João Pedro keeps his place, I'm not sure. I can't work out if he will or not, because they've got so many options, Brighton. But if he does keep his place, he could be another like real enabler, right? You know, we talk about Haaland, Watkins, and and João Pedro with those fixtures on penalties. You know, those who are holding have done okay already, but he could be an absolute gem. I think he's maybe due to rise this evening as well. But that's the team. A threadbare bench. The AI doesn't like a bench at all.
Doesn't, does it? I mean, no. Can I? Am I allowed to critique?
Please.
Absolutely. Quite surprised Isak makes it in. You know, I don't know whether you've got the insight to explain why the AI would pick him over Watkins at this stage.
His fixtures and price. His fixtures are still really good, and his projections. Spurs, Wolves, and Fulham are pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I would go Bailey down to Rodgers, save 1.5 million, and do Isak up to Watkins. I mean, that to me would just be a no-brainer, and I'm sure the chat will agree with that. I do like. Obviously, it's a heavy-hitting midfield, even with Rodgers in there. You know, Palmer, Salah, Saka shows what you can do without the Haaland cash. But again, the AI doesn't seem to like Haaland, even off a hat trick. It's just not seeing the value there, is it?
No, it's not. You know, it looks over a period of time, not just over 1 or 2 weeks. It doesn't kind of hop about, get Haaland in and take him out, sort of thing. It just looks at it looks at the expected value over a certain amount of weeks. I haven't got the rank to hand. We were obviously smashed it in game week 1. Obviously, it struggled to touch last week. So it didn't have Haaland. I think I want to say it's around about 1.5 mil or something now. Going into this week, fine still. But it still doesn't like Haaland. It just thinks you can make better use of the money elsewhere in the team. You know, that premium defense, that premium midfield of Palmer, Saka, and Salah looks beautiful. All penalty takers, in there. So it just likes them. And
if the Tony move goes through, you've got to put Mbeumo in there and have that. It's unbelievable midfield there. You've got 5 penalty takers, and if you look at the rotation between Brighton and Brentford after the break, it's fantastic. So you can just basically, even if you have a front 8, you can just rotate Pedro and Mbeumo to your heart's content in all their tough fixtures, and then you're just laughing with penalty takers, all the way. So it is a nice wild card, even though that you just mix a little bit of grass in with the spreadsheet there.
We've all got our own sort of factors we look at. The Haaland risk. I do think if Haaland hadn't have had Ipswich in game week 2, I think we both said this actually. The start of the season, if he hadn't have had that one match, I would probably have gone without Haaland. Rightly or wrongly. Obviously, I'm really glad I did. I'm really glad he got the hat trick. Absolutely fantastic. And what we talked about last week, actually, Rich, if you remember, I said last week, I think Haaland will stay on, because what normally happens is when they go 2-0 up or 3-0 up or whatever, they drag him off, don't they? But because they didn't have a game midweek, he stayed on the pitch and he got his third, didn't he? Deservedly, but he
tends to dominate most of the points for City at the moment. He's the main man in terms of the goals. If you look at some of the other teams, they are Liverpool as well, and Chelsea in particular. These teams are there. There are contributions coming from a lot of other players. Palmer is an exceptional fantasy asset, but you just don't know who's going to play around him. And that with Haaland, it's been really useful seeing this, because you can build an amazing looking team, especially and the defense is still rock solid. You can take money out of that defense, and you can have a couple of 4.5 assets in there instead of the 3 6s there, and save some money there. as well, and possibly I think I possibly put a third playable striker in there rather than have the three rocks at the back. But I can see why it's done it. It's just would be my preference because there's a lot of value in like Anthony Robinson and people like that you would want to perhaps take advantage of here. So yeah, nice draft, and I'm sure it's given people some ideas.
Place, and Rodgers obviously is going to, will likely keep his place as well. I really do think that a no Haaland team. So like now we're looking at game week 4, right? So we're probably not going to captain even this week, right? Haaland may or may not be the best captain, but there's definitely fair competition. Saka this week, Palmer. There are players who can do it. Even Salah, he's got a good, a good record against United. So the Haaland cap this week, is by no means a dead cert. In game week 4, they're home to Brentford, but Salah's home to Forest. You're not going to captain Haaland in 5 or 6. So going without Haaland from now until game week 7, that scare factor, that sofa factor, for me just isn't there at the moment. He's off the back of a hat trick, and we know he can do damage. Right, all his hat tricks have come at home. Every hat trick he's had, I believe, has come at home as well. So yeah, the team you can build is pretty insane, really. Just having a look at predicted points over the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 game weeks, which is the horizon that the Hub AI looks at. Haaland is top just, but Salah is there right on his heels, as is Palmer right on his heels. 37, 36, 34, Saka 32, Eze 32. Isaac is is above Watkins, which is why it's going for Isaac. Watkins has got a fabulous run of games, mate, but we need to remember that Isaac has 2. So Newcastle, they've got, where are they? So they're home to Spurs this week. Then they're away to Wolves, which is at the moment a really good fixture.
That's now looking like a whipping boy event, isn't it?
They're away to Fulham, which is a good a good fixture. They're home to Man City, which is okay, and then they're away to Everton. So even though they're maybe not as attractive, and they're and more of them away than at home, Isak is, and he's on penalties, which is a big thing. So Isak has the penalty edge in the AI over Watkins as well, which is a factor. So this is why it's going for Isak. De Bruyne 29, Foden 29, Son 28, Havertz, Watkins very congested in this area. Odegaard, Bruno, Bailey, Jota, Robertson, Gordon, Bowen, Trent, and Mbeumo all around the kind of 25-point mark. So many amazing options. And this is the thing with a wildcard. I was trying to kind of think in my head a minute ago, if I did like pull a trigger in game week 4 and went without Haaland, try and pick 5 midfielders who you'd want, because there's probably about 10 who you'd want to try and squeeze in. There's so many incredible options in there.
Yeah. But you can have a front 8 of all taking penalties if you don't have Haaland.
You can,
and that's like extraordinary, and it's worth playing around with. But also, I think this whole sort of like saving versus spending equation, if you take 3 transfers, you can just get through one more weekend without making a transfer. You make your 3 transfers straight after the deadline to catch some rises on the key players you want, and then if you get injuries in the international break, just wildcard, and then you can have your 3 transfers back when you come out the other side. So that's a different thing, isn't it? Because you can spend them and think, oh, my team looks pretty good with 3 transfers, and now I've got, I can provisionally keep my wildcard in pocket, set out for those doubles, the doubles over 2 weeks of home games, Brighton, Brentford, Salah, Palmer, whoever you want, and then if it all goes wrong with the internationals and issues like that, then just hit the button, and then you get your transfers back. So we never had that before, and that's part of the attraction in nearly 20 years, 19th season, in 19 seasons of playing. It's never had 3 transfers, Fergie. So I kind of want to.
It's going to be crazy looking at our team on Saturday at about 12:30 and seeing 3 free transfers going into a break as well. So but yeah, like I say, I'm giving it an awful lot of thought, but that fixture that fixture shift in game week 4 is mega interesting, and and we don't know, right? So, people can speak very definitely, I find, around things like, this is the bet, or you can't do that, wherever else. The fact is, no one knows. No one in the history of FPL has been in this position before, where you can have 3 free transfers potentially, or even 2. You can wildcard and keep your free transfers back. No one knows the most optimal play here. So there will be people who are saying it's too early, it's too, but it just imagine those fixtures play out as the probabilities are, and Villa and Brighton or wherever else go and crush those fixtures, and you'd be absolutely flying, like really flying, with transfers in hand. But on the same note, if they don't, and the players you've taken out, like the Jotas and the Isaks, who've got good fixtures, really good players, just carry on cruising and and scoring every other week or whatever it is, then it could go the other way. So yeah, it's really interesting, and intriguing.
Absolutely,
intriguing time.
It is. It's really good. And even people who, if people have got off to a good start, had a good couple of weeks, nice early rank, just keep doing what you're doing. If you've got off to a good start and your team is not ridden with injuries, don't worry about all these people around you wildcarding. Wildcard when you need to, rather than when someone tells you should. That's a really good tip
as well. Just a quick look at the stats ahead of game week 3. So these are the predictions put together in terms of goals. The top team predicted for goals this week is Chelsea, home to Palace, 2.69. Closely followed by Man City, 2.41, and Liverpool, 2.26. No threes this week, or anything. So as I say, it is wide open in terms of potential for captaincy. Clean sheets. The favourite this week, Arsenal, home to Brighton, have got the best clean sheet odds, followed by Man City, followed by Villa, interestingly, away to Leicester, which Martinez owners and Cons owners will be pleased with. So yeah, we'll look at captaincy next, Rich. That Chelsea home to Palace is, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure it's a slam dunker win for Chelsea as people are making out. I think they're maybe reading too much into the performance against Wolves, which was, Wolves were in that until midway through the second half, and Palace have, they've still got something in them. I think that could be. There's a few games this week that could be anything. I mean, that could be 2-2, could be 5-1. Palace could win 3-0. I just don't know how to call that one. However, clearly the bookies odds or whatever, rate Chelsea's chances in that game. I don't think there'll be a clean sheet in it for either side. It's the same with the Tottenham Newcastle fixture, Newcastle Tottenham fixture. That could be anything. 4-0 to either side, a 3-3 draw. I really don't know, and I don't think anybody knows. So that's why it's a really, really weird week to try and really, really go heavy on any one side. Even the likes of City and Liverpool, got away fixtures, so you just don't know how it's going to go. So, yeah, tough week to predict, but you can see very little chance of a clean sheet for most sides. I think Arsenal probably the biggest chance, but that's only a 45% chance, isn't it? There's no one with over a 50% chance.
I'd be surprised if Brighton didn't score. Like it's a very tight week this week. There's lots of really good matchups, aren't there, this week? So you can see it's very hard to predict a lot of the matches. I think a lot of the top teams are playing each other and vice versa. So yeah, it's good stuff. Best captain this week, interesting. Fantasy Football Hub poll has Haaland out in front, 50%. Palmer second, 22. Salah third, 9, and Saka 8%. A couple of shouts for Mbeumo, Watkins, and De Bruyne. And in terms of Hub AI predicted points, Haaland comes out top, but only just. I mean, look at this. Look at this for a spread. Haaland 7.3, Salah 7.1, Palmer 7, Saka 7, Isak 6.6, Eze 6.2. It is absolutely wide open.
Yeah, it's amazing. It hasn't taken long for Palmer to get his stats back up, has it? Really, that's amazing.
No. What do you think, Rich, in terms of captain for this week?
You can throw a blanket over all of them, couldn't you? I mean, Saka's got a very good fixture. He'll probably be my vice. I just go with Haaland's form at the moment and his confidence. He's looking very confident. He's looking very fit.
Yeah.
where are they? West Ham, is it?
Yeah, away to West
City.
Ham, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the West Ham going all right, but I still think City will have too much there. I think I'll go with Haaland over Saka. But if you're a Salah Palmer camp, then either of those will do as well, won't it? Really, Salah's scored at Old Trafford, I think, on each of the last 7 or 8 occasions or something. You've got to go back to 2019 before he didn't score, so he could do really well as well.
Good. We just had the Chelsea lineup, Rich.
All right.
Some interesting players. A bit of a mixture of first teamers and reserves. So it's Joe Jensen in goal, even though he's halfway down the team, which I don't understand why. Badiashile, Disasi, Adarabioyo, Vega, Dewsbury Hall, Enzo Fernandez, Madueke, which I'm quite surprised at that, Mudrich, Nkunku, and Mark Gui. So yeah, that's a bit of a mixed team there, quite interesting, and a strong bench for Chelsea as well. Palmer, Jackson, etc. on the bench. So yeah, I think.
Well, they obviously want to get through, but yeah, Nkunku starting is not.
Fate is sealed, mate. But you've got Rodgers anyway, haven't you? So.
Yeah, I have, but it's just I think that'll kick another 200,000 into selling him this evening, won't it? So that'll be 6.3 by tomorrow morning. Yeah, what a shame. But hey, let's see what Madueke. See, what does that do to Madueke's start at the weekend?
Goodness knows.
He's won himself. A Conference League start. It doesn't mean that João Felix or Pedro Neto or whatever is going to start on the wing now, does it?
They got so many players.
That's an absolute minefield, isn't it? It's just ridiculous. Yeah.
Fergie is a punt for game week 3. And my player this week, do you know what? I haven't actually got his stats in front of me. I should have his stats in front of me. Let me grab them really, really quickly. He's played twice so far this season, obviously. 1 goal, 1 assist, 12 shots, joint highest with Eze. 7 shots in the box. He's got an XG of 0.69, XA of 1.27, 1 big chance, 2 created, 3 key passes. Really good so far. Plays Everton this week, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Southampton. Again, he's maybe one for the wildcarders, I think, potentially in terms of his price. But he's reasonably low owned. But Antoine Semenyo again after, remember double game week 28 last year when I think he braced in one of those matches though, didn't he? But he looks good. He's a good player. I really do think he's a good player, and I like.
He wasn't the one you brought in on your early wild card. Was he? Was that Senesi, wasn't it? Was that Senesi?
No, I brought him as well. And did I bring Semenyo in? I had Senesi, and then he got injured.
He got injured, didn't he? Yeah,
he got injured. The swine. But yeah, he scored when he was on my bench, and then and then he got injured. But Semenyo, I really like him, and they've got Evan Nielsen, if I've said that right.
Yes.
Up front now, obviously, he missed an absolute sitter last week. Off of Semenyo, assist actually, so he would have had a couple of assists, but I like Semenyo, I really do. And in terms of their fixtures, they're reasonably mixed. But if you went for Rodgers and Semenyo, you could almost have any team you want, I think. So I really like him, and I think he's going to go on and continue to have a good season. So Everton this week. And yeah, he was rested. I think he came on as a sub at half-time last night. So, he's a banker for the weekend. And yeah, I just like him. And I think he could do... I think he's going to have a good season. And I think he's really cheap for, what he can
5.5, yeah. I think if you're not... Because with me, I like Smith Rowe, but I think Robinson and Muniz and Smith Rowe, it's a bit much, isn't it? 3 Fulham.
Agree.
So it's a good alternative at that 5.5 bracket as an enabler that you can play against Everton. Although if I bought him in this week for Nkunku, I'd probably have to bench him. And I just think, do you really want to use a transfer and then bench the guy?
No, you don't, mate.
Guys will save it.
Anything might happen over the international break. You might get
exactly.
Haaland might get injured. or Salah, and all of a sudden the whole game switches on his head, So
Exactly.
definitely save me.
Exactly. So I think for me, it's just that opening where you want the player you're bringing in to at least come into your side, and I just think that position for me is blocked this week, which is hence the it might come across as really patient, but I just think it might as well save. And obviously, I need everyone to get a clean bill of health in the press conferences, but when you look at my side, you think, well, who was your bench?
We will look at your sides in a second. Angel Imperov thought Soucek. He thought I was talking about Soucek. And James Thompson says, Nkunku brace at the weekend is happening. But competition time. And this season, our weekly prize has had a big upgrade with a chance to win some sensational award-winning curry pies, courtesy of Mukherjee's Asian Pie and Catering Company. Last week, Tom has had his pie. He sent me a photo. I should have put it up actually. But Tom sent me his photos, and they look absolutely glorious, all set out on this spot. He had 6 pies. They looked fantastic. I was incredibly jealous. And he won because he picked out, who did he pick out? Salah, was it? Whatever it was in game week 1. This week, the top scorer in FPL, I can't believe no one called it, but Madueke was the top scorer this week. So
what a useless audience we've got, eh?
So there are no winners this week. But for a chance to win some of these fabulous pies, you need to comment who is going to be the top scoring FPL player of game week 3. And if you're right, you'll win a box of these pies with a choice, including their famous Mother Clucker, Creme de la Hen, the Bulldozer, and so many more. They look and taste incredible. You can also grab some just for yourself if you want. The link is in the description below. You can get 10% off with the code, which we have got in the description as well. Watching the football with a Mukherjee's curry pie is a match made in heaven. So don't forget to like the stream and comment on who will be the top point scorer in FPL for this coming week. This competition is restricted to the UK for shipping purposes. Just before we show our teams, just a reminder, you can get your own FPL team rated now for free and get AI transfer recommendations for your team. Top link in the description below. 50% off if you do it now. There's never been a better time to join us at the Hub. Rich, we've got your team on screen. Looking strong. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yes, mate. I was looking at the chat there, and it looked like my image had frozen. But as long as it looks all right to you, that's okay, is it?
All good.
I'm still moving my lips.
Yeah,
am I?
all good,
Still
mate.
moving my lips.
You are.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So the way I'm set up at the moment is I've got Henderson in goal. Not expecting too much out of the away trip to Chelsea based on the first 2. However, don't think it's worth using a transfer on the goalkeeper at the moment. So he's going to play. I mean, at least his competition. Johnson has left the club now, so Matthews on the bench, could have some usefulness in the event of an injury. Got Trent away to Man United. Still hoping for an attacking return from Trent. He's returned in both opening weeks and looked really, really dangerous, but hoping for some attacking returns from Trent. Anthony Robinson, an excellent game last week, so very happy to play him away to Ipswich. And I am playing Pedro Porro away to Newcastle just for the hope of getting some attacking returns. I think Lewis Hall is not as doubtful, I don't think, as Nkunku to get a start, but he did play 90, I think, plus the penalty shootout against
He played
Forest.
really well, apparently, I would add.
He did. He nearly scored, actually. Yeah, some of the chat was saying he had a good game, so I'm hopeful that he's nudged Kelly out. And I think you just wait and see if he gets his place back rather than transfer him out. So due to Nkunku's low expected minutes, he's now optimized ahead of Nkunku on the bench. So Nkunku doesn't even get in ahead of Hall on my bench. So Saka, Eze, Jota and Rodgers in the midfield. Rodgers was not a transfer in. He was an original pick for me. So that's come in really handy this week, having the 8th attacker that can just come in. Haaland captain. Isak gets the Tottenham game at the moment. But as I say, I am tempted to bring Watkins a week early. I've got the money to do it. And it might be that I don't have the money.
I think
My
son reminded me this morning as a Spurs fan. We were looking at his team and he was on about Isak and he said, I don't know if he's right, but I think he said that Newcastle beat Spurs last year and they scored like between 8 and 10 goals against them last year, like 4-0 and 6 something. So don't know, mate. I think it's a good.
Yeah,
I think Spurs have improved, but it's still a good fixture for Newcastle, I think.
it is, and I think you've just got to give easy because of the ownership as well on Isak. If you get that call wrong and Watkins gets another 60 minutes and blanks again, because he's not really showing any early form, is he? He missed a couple of big chances against Arsenal,
both of them.
Yeah, give Isak that game and then deal with it in the break. So Isak, I've got 2 free transfers. I've got to talk about a transfer combination that I might do, right? So instead of all this stuff about saving and wildcarding in the break and all that lovely stuff, if you want to attack this game week and Ivan Toney's transfer gets announced tomorrow, I could go Nkunku to Mbermo and Isak to I can go Muniz to João Pedro and Nkunku to Mbermo.
Nice.
For free.
That's nice.
For free. That. Which puts both of those guys in place for the nice fixture rotation to come. Gives me Mbermo at home to Southampton, and João Pedro goes on the bench away to Arsenal, but is there for the 2 Brighton fixtures afterwards. So that's the use of the 2 frees, which I think is a really nice transfer combination. I just need that extra 0.1 million from the second transfer to make the money, because it's 0.6 gap from Nkunku to Mbermo. I've only got 0.5.
Just watch, because on the Fantasy Football Hub app, it looks like João Pedro may rise tonight as well. So just you keep an eye on that. I love it how you said all that about Isak, and Ron has put Isak top scorer for game week 3 in his that's class.
Yeah. He'll be munching on a mother clucker next week, won't he?
He will be, and he will be. I love that. That's a solid old team, Rich. It's really good. And like you say, the Rodgers pick was. Isn't it nice when you get that 12th player? I think Rodgers, Soucek, kind of anyone like that is absolutely fine at the moment. I think they're all really good. Your recommended transfer this week is Porro to Robertson. Interest in it. The AI loves Robertson. I think he does,
doesn't
it? He had a good header last week off a Jota overhead kick. I don't know if you saw that, which Flecken save with his face. And Robertson has looked good. So Robertson's XG is higher than Trent's. Trent's XA is higher than Robertson's. So Robertson looks good. So he really does. And
he does, and I can see the logic in doing it. For the next few. But what worries me is then it completely blocks a Salah move, doesn't it?
It would if you've got Trent and Jota, which you have obviously. Yeah. Would you go for Salah in addition to Jota as well? I suppose you would, wouldn't you, with their fixtures?
Well, I think always thought Jota was a fairly short term buy because he normally gets injured after 2 or 3 games. But we've got 2 games out of him. He's returned in both games. I think he'll get the place, for the time being. I think he'll start against United. I think there's rumours of Darwin getting sold, isn't there, to other clubs? But I don't know how substantiated.
I saw Arsenal. I saw Arsenal. I don't know how true. I just in like a tweet or something. But
yeah. But I think Jota's got the spot for now. But whether he's got the spot for when the Champions League starts, I don't know. And so therefore, I always want that option to be able to move that around. And I just think if I've blocked with 3 Liverpool, I'm not sure I want that this week. I'm quite happy with Pedro Porro. I think he's done pretty well so far.
Yeah, but the fixtures have been nice. So they've had Leicester and Everton, which are as good as they get. They now turn. They've got.
Gets tough.
It does.
Have you got it? Are you gonna sell him then?
I'm not this week. So just looking at my team quickly, it's obviously very, very similar to yours. I'm going to play Gordon, ahead of Rodgers. So I got Rodgers first on my bench, which I don't really like, to be honest. After watching him last week, those runs he made, they were, they look really threatening, and I liked Rodgers, but I just can't. I mean, I'd be taking out one of Saka, Eze, Gordon, Jota, Muniz, Isak, and Haaland, and I just can't do it. So I'm just going to leave him on the bench for now. His ownership is still quite low, and I've got Porro, Robinson, and Trent at the back. My recommended transfers were Porro to Robertson, as well as Gordon to Bailey. So Gordon and Bailey's points are quite similar, but it does free up the cash to Porro to Robertson. So it's, I think this is right. Like, there's a couple of things. So, Haaland, off the back of a hat trick, absolutely, and we know that a good fixture this week, but I don't think we should hold on to history. The kind of main skill. We all know who the best players are, right? But the best players know when to take players out and bring them in, don't they? To optimize the points. So, and I think with Porro, he potentially another one. He got the goal in the first week, got the clean sheet in the second week. He's done his job, absolutely fabulous, superb. But the fixtures now really do earn for Spurs for the next few. They're not that good. And he's not going to have an attack in return every week, is he? Just having a quick look at Spurs fixtures: Newcastle, Arsenal, Brentford, Man United, and Brighton. I mean, there's not many clean sheets in there. There's not many at all. So
Brentford at home or away?
Brentford is at home, but and Buemo we've just been waxing lyrical about, and everyone else. So I mean, it could be someone that you I'd move around in a reshuffle. If particularly, I think it'd be appealing to move up to an Arsenal defender if playing the long game. So, say if we want to hold on to your wild card till sort of game week 8 to 12, then bringing in Gabriel or Saliba for that $500,000, I think I'd probably go for that over a Gvardiol or over a Robertson. I've never really liked defensive double ups. I just think it's feast or famine, isn't it? You can do it aggressively, and maybe the Arsenal defense is the only one you'd risk doing that with. We're only 2 games in, so I just think Liverpool aren't quite nailed on, even though they're top of the stats at the moment. I like Trent, but I just think the double up in defence, they're so good going forward. I'd rather have a double up in attack for Liverpool. Fair enough.
That's just my view.
No, and
I think if I were you, I might go 3-5-2 and bench Muniz away to Ipswich. You think it's too much of an opportunity? He's
played well. He's had 9 shots. He's looked good. He just haven't quite had the return yet.
All right. I'm not expecting too much out of Muniz, to be honest.
Robinson put over a cracking cross. Muniz headed just wide, didn't he, last week? That would have been absolutely beautiful.
It'd been lovely, that, wouldn't it? Yeah,
we would.
No, but good. You're looking good. I mean, I think you're looking better for the save than I am, because you haven't got Nkunku to deal with, and you haven't got the plummeting price of him to worry about. So yeah, you should definitely save, mate, and go for that.
I'll be saving definitely.
3 transfer bonanza.
Oh, it's interesting, because then it's at the thing then of what what do we do? Do we now just hold fast, because we are going to be up against a flood of wildcarders, and you could hold fast and not wildcard, but if you did and those teams really kick off, you could be behind, and then you're just like, oh, why didn't I just kind of take advantage? But on the same note, as I did last year, as we've all done over the years, you try and target the fixture swings and make these changes, and the players you've taken out, because they're good players who are playing, they carry on. Like Jota and Isak are probably who I take out on wildcard. Like, why would I? Their fixtures are good. They're playing up front. It's just
Yeah, I don't think our 2 teams need wildcarding. But if you have had an unfortunate start and you've got 4 or 5 issues,
definitely,
then don't hesitate. Go for it, because of all the opportunity is there. So yeah, great stuff.
That is it from us for this week. And thank you so much to everyone who joined in the chat as usual. Those who watch it back and those listening on the podcast versions, your support is very much appreciated. And Rich, thank you as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter.
Fantastic. And my handle is at FFH_Fergi. Make sure you drop us both a follow, as well as FFH_HQ if you don't already. And this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. We'd really appreciate it. And remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, 100K. Focal's just mentioned in the chat, congrats on 100K. Thank you so much, Oscar. We really, really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We'll be back in 2 weeks to preview Game Week 4. Rich, you're not here in 2 weeks.
I'm on holiday. Yeah, I'm on holiday, so I won't be on this
again.
one, I don't think.
You forgot
but
to say again.
I will send my transfer plans or
please do.
Things through so you can let people know what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm away for the next one.
So I will be back in 2 weeks with a guest or two to preview Game Week 4. In the meantime, we hope you have a fantastic Game Week 3. Enjoy the international break, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.